The average Canadian family is projected to spend $15,500 on food in 2025. That's $800 more than in 2024, and a staggering $3,800 more than in 2019. In just 6 years, grocery bills have skyrocketed 33%, leaving many Canadians struggling to afford basic necessities. This surge in food costs is not just a statistic though, it's a reality millions are facing. Food bank usage in Canada reached all-time high in 2024, with visits increasing 90% since 2019. According to Food Banks Canada, the crisis is even worse in cities like Toronto, where food banks recorded 3.5 million visits, a 270% increase since the pandemic. So what's behind the surge in food prices? What is the role of carbon tax? Local and global events. It's impossible to talk about the last 6 years without addressing the pandemic. It was an unprecedented time in Canadian history. It disrupted economies and daily life at nearly every fundamental level. And when it comes to grocery bills, the pandemic had two major negative effects: supply chain disruptions and labor shortages. Lockdowns and travel restrictions were introduced to slow down the spread of the virus, but these measures also crippled industries that rely on human labor, especially agriculture and transportation. Fewer workers in fields, food processing plants, and trucking meant that supply of food plummeted. When supply goes down, price goes up. Even years later, we're still recovering from these setbacks. But the pandemic was not the only factor. It was a major one, but not the only one. Extreme weather events, ones that are driven by climate change, also played a key role in skyrocketing food costs. Weather events affected two of Canada's biggest suppliers of produce, Mexico and California. Both of these places were hit by prolonged droughts, drastically affecting crop yields. Mexico suffered from a major drought due to reduced rainfall and a rise in temperature, a phenomenon linked to La Niña and El Niño. California, a key exporter of fruits and vegetables to Canada, faced one of its worst droughts between 2020 and 2022, causing record low reservoir levels and devastating wildfires. Finally, a new challenge is also emerging: trade dispute between Canada, USA, and China. China imposed tariffs affecting over $2.6 billion worth of Canadian exports. All these products will become less competitive in China because of the tariffs, which means to reap the same amount of profits, these companies will look for those profits at home. It's just the nature of these things. And as the trade war escalates, its impact on grocery prices will only continue. Role of corporate pricing strategies. Canada's grocery industry is dominated by a handful of powerful corporations. Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, Costco, and Walmart collectively control 75% of the market, creating an oligopoly, a market where a small number of large firms dominate, limiting competition. In such environment, pricing power is heavily concentrated, and without enough competition, these companies can raise prices without the fear of losing too many customers. In recent years, there has been growing frustration over greedflation, the idea that corporations are using inflation as an excuse to raise prices beyond what is necessary to cover their costs, padding their profits in the process. Critics argue that while supply chain issues, labor shortages, and global crises have certainly played a role in driving up food prices, grocery giants may be exploiting the situation to boost their bottom line. Public outrage reached a boiling point when shoppers began sharing their own experiences of skyrocketing prices online. Many Canadians living near Metro or Loblaws, especially in urban areas, found themselves with no cheaper alternative, forcing them to continue shopping at these places, making them pay a premium for basic groceries. In 2023, the House of Commons summoned up top executives from Loblaws, Metro, and Sobeys to testify their pricing practices. While companies obviously denied any wrongdoing, reports from economists and advocacy groups suggested otherwise, that corporate profit margins remained high even when food prices surged. And greedflation is only one issue. There's also price leadership, where price does not go up due to competition, but rather because one major chain raises prices, others are able to follow, creating an industry-wide shift. Is the carbon tax the culprit? Carbon tax has gotten a lot of flake in the last half a decade. But is it truly behind the rise in grocery prices over the last 6 years? A study from policy.irpp.org found that in British Columbia, carbon tax was responsible for just 0.33% of the total increase in food prices. Additionally, economists from University of Calgary estimate that carbon tax was responsible for less than 1% of the rise in food prices. Now, what about inflation? What is carbon tax contributing to the broader inflationary pressures that make food production more expensive? Well, let's look at Bank of Canada. According to Bank of Canada, the carbon price accounts for just 0.15% of any given year's inflation. So while carbon tax may play a role, it's clear that it is not the main driver of rising food costs.